Yeah. I'm Carla Grant. I'm the Youth Development Worker within Annandale and Eskdale.
And I'm Lauren Asher. I'm the Online and Communications Youth Information Worker based in Dumfries and Galloway's Youth Work Service. Is it working? Yes, there we
go. So for anyone that doesn't know about Dumfries and Galloway Council's Youth Work Service, we work with young people aged 12 to 25. We deliver a range of universal and targeted opportunities, including group work, one-to-ones. Some of the types of services that we deliver are like drop-in sessions, issue-based, youth work, youth events, like you heard about Youth Beats, wider accreditation, youth democracy, including Dumfries and Galloway Youth Council and action groups.
As part of this work, we've been working alongside various groups of young people to explore how we can better support them to learn about gambling, the risks involved, and how to reduce harm. Gambling was identified as a top 5 priority issue by young people through 10,000 Voices, which was a region-wide consultation that engaged with 10,629 young people across Dumfries and Galloway over the course of 2018. To start with, we felt that it was important to first clarify what young people already knew about gambling and to explore what their knowledge was. Through these conversations, it became apparent that some of our older young people that we were working with, young leaders, young volunteers and young parents, seemed to have a greater understanding of what gambling was, gambling behaviours, and had engaged in it themselves. Whereas when we were speaking with some of our younger young people who had been involved in our junior youth groups or through our schools interventions, they had less knowledge of gambling and were unable to identify the behaviours they were taking part in were actually gambling. Through this, we then worked backwards. So we started with our older young people and used their experience and knowledge to work backwards to design what our early intervention and prevention could look like. Where would they have first come into contact with gambling? Where should we then aim our interventions at to ensure that young people were going to be accessing help before they found themselves in a gambling situation?
Okay, so once this was identified, we used a range of activities to engage young people in discussions, taking a peer education approach that put young people at the heart of the solution. So first of all, we upskilled all of our staff that are employed by Dumfries and Galloway Council's Youth Work Service. They all undertook gambling education training to ensure that they felt comfortable talking with young people. It was identified, if anybody is youth workers in here, that obviously if you don't have even a tiny bit of knowledge, then you can sometimes shut that conversation down because you're not confident to then have that conversation. So we ensured that all of our staff were then confident and comfortable to actually have an open conversation with young people. And we also had Tina from Fast Forward and Scottish Gambling Education Hub to come down. She came down to Lockerbie and then to the Yes in Dumfries and actually did some different activities to engage young people around their knowledge and find out what it was that we were doing.
For those of you who might know about our services, we hope that you have heard of the Toon, which some of our young people spoke about earlier. It is an interactive drama-based production that young people design from scratch. They write the scripts and then perform. And it aims to address some of the young people that we know that young people are facing. This year, one of the scenes at the Toon, as the young people described, was focused on gambling and looked at the ripple effect that a family member's gambling can have on young people or children within the household. Some of the young people who were involved are also going to feature in videos that we'll be launching on our social media platforms today. They've been working on a #Don'tDiceWithLife campaign and have created a series of 7 videos aiming to educate other young people in their own words about how to reduce the harm if they are taking part in gambling.
Yep. And lastly, we've been ensuring that all youth groups have the appropriate posters, the numbers displayed to signpost young people to specialist services where needed. So we've got all of the fast forward posters and anything else that we can get as well in all of our youth centres across Dumfries and Galloway. So before summer and after the staff training, our youth workers, again, were a bit more open to conversing with young people about their knowledge and gambling. So through this experience, young people were then kind of asked about what it was that they would like to do about gambling, how could they educate other people, and they came up with a project to inspire their peers by doing a 12-week project where we learned about what gambling was, the risks of the gambling and harm reductions. So we actually then created a board game. Some of you, if you were here upstairs, downstairs, where we first came in, yeah. The board game is there to have a look when you are out at lunchtime, and you can try and have a play with it. So that's just a prototype for it, and then we're actually going to get it manufactured. But the main purpose of it is there's 7 colours, so each colour has something related to gambling. So we've got like a game of 21, higher or lower, congratulations, you've moved 2 spaces, and there's a trivia. So the easy is your basic music quiz, trivia, general knowledge, and then your hard is all gambling related. So it's your harm reduction questions, it's if anybody's seen the fast forward toolkit booklet that has all of the percentages, we basically stole all of that information. Tina said we could. So we stole all of that but put it into like a trivia quiz. And the young people then chose the questions and said like what was most shocking from what they had learned, and then put that in so that it was actually a trivia question. And then through that there's obviously the betting side. So there's like fake money, every young person gets given £100 and you go through the board game, and then at the end it's all then down to the youth worker or the member of staff that's working with the young people, and they ask them different questions. So such as you can take money from the bank, but your interest is that you move 2 steps back, but then because you can win money, you then have to give that money back as soon as you win it. Obviously, you've then lost your money, you need to go back to the bank. So then at the end of the game, when somebody wins, there's about 10 prompt questions, but then as youth workers, you can then ask more, but the prompt questions are kind of there just to start the conversation of how did it feel when you got stuck in that bank rotation? How did it feel when, was anybody cheeky enough to actually ask their pals because they realised that they didn't want to get interest from the bank? You know, there's like all different kind of prompt questions. How did you get that dopamine hit? How did it feel when you kept losing? What was this? And it's really quite interesting because some of our young people are quite like, yeah, they're finding it really frustrating that they can win a game of 21 but can't move 2 spaces forward. So have a look at it when you go downstairs. And there is also signposting, and it links, there's also the hashtag. So if you do use it or you do get it, it's the hashtag YWWSLS, and it all connects back. It has signposting and everything on it too. We've got 3 videos to hear from young people themselves on why they wanted to create the project, the board game. The noise is a bit funny because it took a while for them to agree to do the video, so it's, yeah, you'll see.
Why do you think it's important to talk about gambling?
Because it's for issues for later life. It is a global problem. It could affect their life really badly.
What difference do you hope your project will make?
To inform people of bad gambling, because to better the lives of those affected, to stop gambling.
Can you tell us a little about your board game?
To inform people how gambling works. To explain the risks of gambling. It's a fun way to educate people on how bad gambling is.
So that's, yeah, thank you. So that's just a little bit about what the Lockerbie group did with the board game. So if anybody wants to look at it, I'll be upstairs at lunchtime anyway.
There we go. So the other project we've been working on alongside young people is our digital peer educators have been designing a series of videos called hashtag Don't Dice With Life, which is a campaign that they've developed. Through our conversation, something that kept coming up consistently was that some of the language and terminology around gambling wasn't necessarily youth-friendly, and young people struggled to access accurate information that was in their own words or that they felt they could relate to. So their response to that was to create a series of videos using TikTok trends to educate their peers a little bit more about what gambling is and where they can go for support. Their campaign launches today on our social media, and it explores 6 different ways that you can reduce the harm if you are taking part in gambling, and where to go for support. As well as educating young people, we were working with others on gambling. We wanted to ensure that the young people participating were also getting something out of the project, and we identified these from the National Youth Work Outcomes from YouthLink Scotland. And these were all things that the young people themselves at the end of the project were able to say they had done. They felt confident, they felt that they had more knowledge to be able to make informed decisions, and that they felt much more able to take part in teamwork and leadership. They would have been here to talk about it, but we have our annual Youth Awards tonight, and they are finalists, so they are busy preparing for that.
Okay, so moving forward, we want to build on our existing work and keep momentum going using the resources developed to continue the conversation with young people. So once the board game has been manufactured, we have spoken with Tina and we're going to make sure that she definitely has a copy, but depending on how we can get them manufactured, we're going to try and also get quite a few. So as soon as we've got it, we'll send it to Tina, and I'm sure that she can send it out to members and stuff, so that you have it. If you have any questions, you can let us know. And all the videos that will be launched today, if you have any of our social media, it'll be at YouthWorkDG, and it'll all be on there. And tonight, when we are at the Youth Awards, there will be a TikTok challenge to hopefully help this kind of conversation go viral. So again, have a look on our TikTok tonight for the YouthWorkDG, and hopefully you can get some young people involved in that conversation.
For us, we see this kind of as the start of our journey. These projects have kind of taught us a lot, and taught the young people a lot, and they are already devising what their next steps could look like. So they are excited to see what the next year or so brings in terms of gambling education. I don't think we've got time for questions. So if you do have questions, please feel free just to email us or head to our website, where you can find contact details, or drop us a message on social media.
One question.
Mm-hmm.
One question. What age? You say young kids are young, but what's the youngest age group you're talking to?
Generally, our services are for young people that are aged 12 to 25, but we also run junior youth groups, which engage with young people from about primary 6, so they'll be about 10.
Yeah. The conversation though as well that we've learned is that young people don't understand all of the gambling. So Monopoly, McDonald's Monopoly for example, is the biggest one. So we're like, is that gambling? And they're saying no. But we're also then going, well, it is, because actually you're spending more money, you don't know what you're going to get. How often would you normally drive to Johnston Bridge? So like, for example, Dumfries, Galloway, if anybody knows, you know, like for young people in Annan, for example, to get to Johnston Bridge is a 20-minute drive, or to get into Dumfries is a good 30-minute drive to get to that McDonald's. But when Monopoly's on with McDonald's, we're seeing an increase in young people get into these different areas to go to McDonald's to maybe win a TV, or like, but they don't know what they're actually getting. So we're like, well, you're participating in gambling then. Or maybe they're doing their mum's lottery numbers, you're participating in gambling. And it's happening from such a young age that they don't realise that they're participating. So having this conversation early, but like the board game, for example, we wouldn't probably introduce until about S2. But like the actual conversation around, are you aware of what it is starting early for us.
Thank you.
Okay.